The events in Saudi Arabia over the last week or so have been truly astonishing. In a world without President Trump, this story would have dominated the headlines. Last Saturday, the heir apparent in the kingdom, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, ordered the arrest of dozens of princes, top officials and businessmen. The complaint was corruption, which the kingdom says cost $100 billion. This is an odd charge, since most observers would say that the kingdom of Saudi Arabia runs on patronage, kickbacks and graft. Among those arrested was Prince Al Walid, a well-known billionaire businessman and past guest on this program. And then there's this. This week, Saudi Arabia accused Lebanon of declaring war on its kingdom, and Hezbollah has accused Saudi Arabia of declaring war on Lebanon. So, what is going on? Ali Shihabi is a Saudi national who serves as the executive director of the DC-based think tank, the Arabia Foundation. Ali, it seems to me the first part, the anti-corruption stuff, is a consolidation of power for Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, and it appears like the one that Xi Jinping did, the anti-corruption plan, like Putin when he went after the oligarchs. This means that Saudi Arabia now has one very powerful ruler, correct?
Fareed, I think there's a misconception about that, because the consolidation of power took place in June when Prince Mohammed bin Salman was appointed crown prince. Once he was appointed crown prince, game over. There were no centers of power that could dispute that. His succession would be automatic after the passing of the present king. So it is not so much a consolidation of power as two things. First of all, the issue of corruption, as you mentioned before, is something that has plagued the kingdom for many, many years. It's not just corruption.
But let me put it this way. He just bought a $500 billion yacht himself.
Yes.
I presume that didn't come out of his salary as crown prince.
I will tell you.
There is no distinction between the wealth of the country and the wealth of the royal family. So how can you even talk about corruption?
I will tell you that, because that story came out of a New York Times article about a year ago, which actually is factually incorrect. Now, does he have a yacht? He has a yacht. The question is not...
Maybe it's 400
billion. It's actually substantially less, but that's not the point. The point is not, can there be one crown prince and one king and one yacht? The question in Saudi Arabia was that there were the equivalent of 10 kings, 50 deputy kings and 500 assistant kings.
So that's what I mean. It's a consolidation.
So, well, it's a consolidation of entitlement, because it has been estimated that if you want to call them elite entitlement and privilege, has been costing the kingdom somewhere between 10 to 30% of its budget. So it's not just historical corruption, it's corruption going forward. So the point is that
the end of a patronage system.
Exactly. The circle of entitlement has to be made much smaller. And the way to do that is through shock treatment. Because, for example, the Crown Prince has been talking for 2 years on television that this has to end, we are not going to accept it. But, elites give up privileges with a lot of difficulty.
Why Al Walid? Explain that one.
Well, we will have to see what this. The rumor mill is that it had something to do with the fact that his portfolio, was highly leveraged. He'd borrowed a lot of money against his foreign holdings. In 2008, some people say, and again, this is a rumor, we'll have to see, that his firm was nearly bankrupt.
But I feel like it also adds to the shock value.
It does, of course. Well, the point is that his firm was bankrupt, and that he, with the cooperation of the then Minister of Finance, got the government to bail him out in an unfair manner. Right. Of course it does. Now, there are about 200 people have been arrested. The names that have been leaked have been high-profile names. The point is to send that message that if those high-profile people are no longer immune, if the biggest names in the land are no longer immune, then nobody will be immune. And I can tell you that has had the effect of changing behavior immediately. Today, if you're a government official looking to sign a contract, you're going to look over your shoulder. And it's that shock therapy that is so essential to changing the behavior of the elite. So in a way, it's a revolution from above, you see, which will protect, frankly, Saudi elites in the future from a revolution from below.
So the one place you haven't seen the shock therapy is on the religious establishment. The Crown Prince has talked about wanting a more moderate Islam. And in the past, when I've been in Saudi Arabia, and I've said to people, why don't you get the religious establishment to be more moderate, to end this kind of extremism, they would say, well, we can't do that because, they have their own power. Well, it now is clear that the Crown Prince has total power, and it's always seemed to me that the religious establishment they were salaried employees of the state, as it were. Why doesn't he use shock therapy on the Wahhabi establishment and tell them to get with the program? And
exactly, he did exactly that over a month ago.
One speech, but he's not done anything.
No. He arrested 40 to 70 clerics. About 6 weeks ago, exactly this was done to the religious establishment. 40 to 60 clerics were arrested, including one of the clerics who had 14 million followers on Twitter, one of the biggest names. So exactly this policy.
So you expect to see a moderation of the...
Absolutely. Now, to moderate the culture, to moderate your understanding of Islam, this is a long-term process. It's much quicker to stop corruption, and it's much quicker to stop elite entitlement. But the process and the shock therapy actually preceded this shock therapy. The problem was that when he arrested the clerics 6-7 weeks ago, and this was about 3 weeks before he allowed women to drive, which the clerics had been resisting as a wedge issue, because that they considered that sort of the last bastion of conservatism. And he crushed that. So the things that he's been doing have been taken with a lot of cynicism by analysts and talking heads in America. They're not giving the benefit of the doubt. If you will allow me, I'd like to comment on your introductory statement.
You've got 45 seconds.
Okay. The book that you talked about, that talked about the playbook, Putin's playbook, for example. As I said, he consolidated his power already. So he doesn't need to do this to consolidate power. He needs to do it to re-educate elites that their period of entitlement and privilege is over.
Well, now we have a little bit more time, so I will ask you about Lebanon. Very briefly, just explain what is going on. It seems as though this is part of a Saudi-Iranian Cold War being played out in Lebanon. Each side wants to influence Lebanon.
No, it's not. The question is that Lebanon has become a state that is captured by Hezbollah. And Hezbollah, frankly, has morphed into a pure terrorist organization. So Lebanon is controlled by a non-state actor that has become Iran's subcontractor to use in the Arab world. So Hezbollah has been working in Syria, helping kill hundreds of thousands. It's also been operating in Yemen as a subcontractor for Iran. So the point is to expose what Lebanon has turned into, which is a Hezbollah-controlled state with a veneer of respectability.
All right, I asked you tough questions. You answered very well. That is a very important Saudi perspective. Next on GPS, how the Republicans have betrayed the legacy of their secular saint, Ronald Reagan, when we come back.